Hey, hi, howdy, Redneck Sparky here. Today marks day 10 since Vanguard was released, and there's a lot of mixed feelings about it. Everything from the campaign, multiplayer zombies, to the hopeful Warzone integration, fans just don't seem to be happy, and there's a lot of folks that are saying that sales just aren't happening either. So, sit back while I dive in and tell you whether or not this game is good. Okay, so starting right from the very top, we'll go into the campaign. There's a lot of people that just think this campaign is like any other Call of Duty campaign. But what I say to those people is you really need to try this out. My personal experience is that this campaign is the first one that's grabbed my attention and held it there for longer than just a mission or two. I can't remember how good a campaign was for several Call of Duties since, and that includes some of the later Black Ops series. For me, the campaign was immersive, and how they've described it is intimate and realistic, which I appreciate. You really get to deep dive into the Call of Duty heritage and where the game actually began. Not to mention, you really get to identify what a campaign game is really meant to be. And for a game like Call of Duty that really started off with a campaign without multiplayer, I think they brought it back. Specifically, a lot of the missions are tailored to specific characters in the campaign, which is really cool. The way it goes from POV to POV, playing different characters without really interrupting the flow of the campaign. A lot of games try to do that where you're playing as multiple characters throughout the actual campaign, but it doesn't seem to flow as well as this entry does. I really appreciate Vanguard's campaign. They've also incorporated some other game type aspects. A lot of the times on some of the missions, I felt like I was almost playing an Assassin's Creed or an Arkham series game, but in a Call of Duty first person shooter sense. And that was really cool. Now, if you're not into that kind of game, then cool, it's not going to be for you. But for somebody like me that has a wide range of genre that I play, it was really something that I could go from character to character, genre to genre, and enjoy the story. Now, one thing I didn't enjoy about the campaign is it did seem short. Now, maybe that's because I was grinding through it because I was so addicted to the story, but I think it might have just been with the development of it. Whether that's they didn't have enough time to do it, or it's part of the current culture and climate we're in right now, or maybe it's just that folks aren't attached to campaigns anymore and they prefer to do the multiplayer or battle royale style games. For me, the campaign was just too short, and I would have really loved it if there were more aspects to the story or more characters and missions. So for me personally, the campaign really exceeded expectations. I was going in just expecting another Call of Duty campaign, but I was blown away by everything it had to offer, except for maybe the length of time. If you haven't given it a shot yet, I definitely recommend you do. It's something that I'll remember as a good campaign for a long time. But don't just take my word for it. There's a lot of articles and videos out there saying pretty much the same thing, even in more detail in other cases. Regardless, check it out. See for yourself. It's either something you're going to like or it's something you're not. But the campaign aside, let's talk about zombies. Something that, for the first time that I can remember, an integration with Activision and Treyarch brought zombies to an Activision game. Now, there's a lot of speculation about what's to come on the horizon, but for now, just this 10-day review, I gotta say, I'm not impressed with zombies at all. You might as well just cookie cutter another zombies game into a shorter task-based mode, and you've got your zombies for this Vanguard. I've found, much like other players, I just can't stick with it very long. There's a lot of folks, including myself, will play a couple rounds and will exfil as soon as possible. It's just not the traditional zombies that we're used to. And for that, I just hop back on Black Ops and do my thing. If you're not looking for a traditional zombies mode, yeah, sure, maybe you'll enjoy this one. But for what it's worth, it might as well be removed from the game. But if it so happens that they start improving on things over the course of the year, which I'm not so confident about considering Treyarch's development of their next game, maybe we'll have something that's worthwhile that's not just a round-based, cookie-cutter, do-nothing task-based mode, and something that's a lot more like Treyarch's Zombies should be. For now, I just don't recommend Zombies mode. Not until they do some upgrading, some updates, or just ignore it until the next Treyarch game comes out. Now let's talk about multiplayer, the staple of Call of Duty for years. I gotta say, multiplayer is multiplayer. If you played one, you've played them all. The difference is the guns, the perks, the playstyles, the maps, all of which Vanguard brings a unique selection and does an okay job. I'm not let down, but I'm not really impressed. At the end of the day, it is what it is. Now, what we will dive into is some of the issues, such as the dreaded forward intel perk. Now, as a disclaimer, I'm not saying one way or another forward intel is a good or a bad perk. There's a lot of folks that like it, just as there's a lot of folks that hate it. At the very least, I think it has more to do with the actual multiplayer issue that I see, which is matchmaking. Right now, it's still very new, and I suspect there's not enough players to really get new matches going. So oftentimes, whenever you're launching a new match, you might get thrown into one that's already half over, or one where your back's up against the wall. And because of folks with forward intel, they're able to just spawn camp you like nothing. But I do see why a lot of folks are complaining about forward intel, especially whenever it comes to the spawn camping type of playstyle. No, that's not something I'd recommend, and I hope you don't do it either, but it definitely offers the opportunity. If you can get past that, though, and you get into some matches from the start, you're probably going to be pretty squared away. It's something that, if you enjoy multiplayer, you're going to enjoy this too. Whether it's grinding for camos, trying to upgrade your weapons, or whatever it is you enjoy doing, multiplayer is going to be a staple, and there's going to be a lot of people that play it. However, there are some other folks that just don't enjoy the differences between Vanguard and Black Ops. But for that, I think it's just a lot of Black Ops fanboys and girls out there just reminiscing on the Black Ops 3, Black Ops 1 days, where things were just easy for them. Nowadays, everybody plays video games, and everybody has an opinion about how it should go. But whenever it comes to multiplayer, the stakes are kind of leveled. And you either get in early and you get a little bit better of a setup, or you just have to grind through all of the hard and hope that you can get the stuff unlocked so you can be competitive. But at the very least, it's a game that's going to just continue getting players, new and old. And just like every other Call of Duty multiplayer, this one's going to see its highs and lows with map issues, perk issues, kill streak issues, specifically the dogs. Now I have to say, I absolutely love the return of the dogs kill streak. It was one of my favorites back in the day, and I'm glad to have it back. But they really need to fix how dogs can just magically teleport up to platforms that would otherwise be inaccessible by a four-legged friend. It's an odd thing to be sure, but maybe we can chalk this up to another dev timeline issue. Did they really take the time to make sure all these bugs were ironed out? For something this simple where a dog can just get to you whenever they otherwise shouldn't be able to, that's a little odd. Again, if they had more time, I'm confident this would be figured out. And I'm sure it'll be figured out in the future, whether sooner or later. But for right now, don't expect to climb a ladder, hop on a roof, just to escape old Pucho, because they're probably going to still reach you and tear your ass up. All things considered, multiplayer is multiplayer. I can't really give it a good or a bad. It's something that I'm going to play, others are going to play, and we're just going to deal with the issues that we might have. And for those that just can't stand it, they're just going to go back to their Black Ops multiplayer and call it a day until they're literally the only person playing it anymore. What I suspect is that there's a lot of folks that just aren't playing Vanguard at the moment. They haven't seen what it's about. They haven't played their campaign or zombies. They haven't really even dived into multiplayer. Maybe they just even haven't bought it yet. Largely that might be due to the fact that Battlefield and Halo are right around the corner, but I think it might also be some Warzone latency. There's a lot of players that are still playing Warzone, whether in the regular Warzone map or Rebirth Island. And that's cool. I mean, once Warzone shifts to Pacific, a Vanguard-based map, instead of what we've got now from the past 2 years of Modern Warfare, I definitely think people are going to start transitioning to Vanguard, and they're going to play multiplayer as a requirement to get guns and things grinded out just so they can be competitive on the new Warzone map. But Who knows? Time will tell, and we're still about 3 weeks away from that Warzone launch. My prediction: as soon as Warzone transitions to the Pacific map from Vanguard, there's a lot of folks that are going to buy the game. Largely because they're going to need that multiplayer just so they can start getting the guns that are competitive to the new map and the new devs. Just like we saw from the Modern Warfare to Cold War transition, a lot of the old guns were just kind of out the window immediately. Sure, you still had a good selection of meta from the first game, but those things were so dynamic that you needed the upgraded weapons, the new weapons, just to be really good or stay in line with how you were doing. Not to mention, I'm sure there's some hesitancy because of the whole hacker situation. Now, sure, there's a lot we could say about Ricochet and the anti-cheat. Nothing we're going to dive in too deep, but just for now, just know that Ricochet anti-cheat is PC only, and whenever you're talking about a cross-play opportunity for consoles and PCs to connect, there's not a lot of wiggle room on how guaranteed that anti-cheat is going to be, especially whenever the software has already been released to hackers. Like, those folks already have some of the background code to the anti-cheat software. What sense does that make? And how is it going to help those that are just trying to play a non-hacker game? But like I said, maybe an anti-cheat video for another day. For the last 10 days that we've had Vanguard, it makes a lot of sense why sales aren't skyrocketing. A lot of folks just aren't into the campaign, even if it's something that's so wildly creative and immersive, something that we haven't seen in such a long time. There's just so many that don't care. It's a campaign. Why do I want to do that whenever I can hop online and play multiplayer? Or maybe I don't have the time to play a campaign, so I don't want to sit through there 30 minutes, maybe an hour long, just to stop and then come back. From the zombie perspective, let's just go right out and say it. We should not have zombies in Vanguard. It should have been saved for a Treyarch exclusive or separate for Cold War iteration and just continue running that while we're on this Activision game. At the very least, please do something in the future if you want to keep it on board, because right now, zombies just isn't the real zombies. And for the multiplayer aspect, let's just say it. It's a Call of Duty multiplayer. It's got goods, it's got bads, but at the end of the day, people are still going to play it and they're going to grind through the things they don't like, whether that be the forward intel perk or the dog's kill streak that's just pissing them off every match. Either they're going to play it or they won't. And as the Warzone integration happens, I suspect they'll just deal with it a lot more, just so they can grind and upgrade what they need so they can then hop over on Battle Royale. Now, there may be a silver lining if you're just not enjoying the game, and that is developers are looking at trying to reduce the size of the game as a whole. Now, I'm hesitantly optimistic. If you remember the past two Call of Duties, they tried to do something similar, but I only saw a few gigabytes worth of storage space returned to me. Now, regardless of what platform you play on, PC, Xbox, PlayStation, storage is always going to be an issue for you, especially as these mainstream games get bigger and bigger and bigger. So, you'll have to pick and choose which ones you want to do, which kind of circles back to maybe why people aren't getting this in the first place. Why spend $60 or more on a game just to then lose the ability to play Cold War and Warzone? Why not wait until the incorporation of the current Call of Duty's Warzone map? With that, just remember, this is only my 10-day review of Vanguard. It's an early game with a lot of issues, just like every other game has. Between the campaign, multiplayer zombies, future Warzone integration, time will tell whether or not this game really stands out. And although early sales are low, that doesn't really mean it's going to be a good game or a bad game or a game that you should or shouldn't get. My recommendation is to get it. If you've got the spare cash and you've got the spare storage space, go ahead and install it, play some games, and see for yourself. I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments section. Leave a like on the video and subscribe for more content. As always, this is Redneck Sparky. Thanks for watching.
Would appreciate like, follow, subscribe.